This short clip is from my live trading room. You can engage directly with my fabulous team and me at LaDucTrading.com for all our research and trades. Or for just my daily live streams, you can access via YouTube memberships. All links are in the description. AI capex build out meets supply constraints in general, but also specifically caused by Iran war, meet forecasts that next year's earnings for semiconductor index SOX will be almost double last year's. So this is not just an unprecedented advance, but it's also beating Mag 7. So these are charts that I got from Bloomberg. And basically you can see that the S&P EPS usually beats expectations, but never like this. Boom, straight up hockey stick. And then next year, 2027 profits for the SOX index have almost doubled. And semiconductors relative to the Magnificent Seven are also screaming higher. So what does that mean? Well, you got a whole bunch of analysts out there on the Wall Street now revising their S&P 500 targets higher. So I talked about RBC last week. Yardini is jumping in today. Again, the market has moved very strongly higher, unprecedented times. We know this historic. The S&P is now 17% above the March 30th low, hitting 7,400. And now we've got Yardini upgrading, however you want to put it, his target for 2026 to 8,250. You've got some other places that are even above that. Mike Wilson, Morgan Stanley, says current first quarter earnings season has been just crushing median earnings per share growth and EPS surprises at a 4-year high. So this will continue the bull run until we get a macro event trigger to interrupt the bullish flows. We also have, as I showed in the write-up that I did Thursday, a lot of systemic, mechanical, quant, price-insensitive flow, which is money flow buying in the market. CTAs, I showed you that. Vol control funds, I showed you that. Mid-April, we had the passive investing. And then I did a big, for me anyway, deep dive into the big picture of passive investing. And you can kind of see when you come into this post that I did on Saturday, this is down here, revisiting trend portfolio construction in an era of AI and passive investing. So if you really want to see how deep and wide this moat is for not just concentration risk, but also in the mechanical buying of the market. I did a lot of research and put it together. It's my voice, but definitely it is a lot of flows that are very, very, very hard to interrupt. By the way, this is longer. So I tried to put it into bullets for easy comprehension, but that mechanical engine is extremely strong, and the Mag 7 and SOX are firmly built into the markets for those who are passive investing focused. You're already getting lots and lots of AI in your soup. All right. In the meantime, UFO is another one that I was asked about, which is the space ETF, and it is very strong looking. We had Rocket Lab last week with a huge advance. By the way, Rocket Lab is on all-time highs. And then look at this ASTS. It had to repeat. It had to hold that trend line. Look at the little tail, and then it came back up to the 50-week, and now it's gapping up above the 200-day. That's where it has to stay. So this is, in a nutshell, where this has to stay and not falter. So this is a gap on a weekly. It's very bullish as long as it can stay above 75 for ASTS. So let's do that. Now, ASTS isn't a really heavy position in UFO, but I'm just pointing it out because UFO looks very bullish. ASTS could also form this head and shoulders. It would have to get back below that green trend line though, right? So let's call it 70. Anyway, in the meantime, that held, boom. And you've got Rocket Lab, which exploded higher into new all-time highs. And that was the breakout trigger. It had to get above 92.43. And for those who chased it on Friday, you saw it do exactly that. That's the trend line. It had to get above 92.43. That was target. And that had to get above it. And it screamed higher on a daily. Beautiful scoop pattern above 93. And now it's pushing 110. So that is why UFO is also doing extremely well. And I would say for those who are still long from this scoop pattern, and then this big bullish engulfing, monthly breakout higher, it came back in and retested beautiful support, 48.66 for UFO, the space ETF. And now It's got a morning star reversal that is working. I would keep it right above 54.23. And then another play within UFO is this Planet Labs, which is satellite surveillance, and it's a government contract beneficiary. So I wanted to just highlight the UFO and the ASTS because I've been getting asked about that one. ASTS is opening up very, very sharply, nicely. So that's getting a little bit of the wind. We've got some rockets moving, or the space is really exuberant here. ASTS is already up 3% since the open, but more importantly, it's got to stay above that trend line. All right, Tim has said his comment on RKLB. After digesting the earnings and forward view, I mean, look at this thing. Great company, smart management, good lines of business, but there is execution risk with this one, and I will not be adding, but rather extending my puts into January to make sure the Neutron launch goes well. If it does, I will be adding to my position, burning cash, but growth capex, which I consider legit. Thank you. All right, so this is the RKLB space play, and we already know its earnings crushed it, and it just needed to clear 92.43 last week. It did. New all-time highs. Here's your nice little scoop pattern as well. And now we've got follow through of 10%. Already sized up that UFO is a nice continuation play above the 52-week highs for sure, and then all-time highs. And you've got this nice push. Next 60 would be on a monthly. And then, of course, part of this is PL, which is in a firm uptrend. Already talked about that. And ASTS, which needed to hold this green line in the sand, and it did. So that's your space. And I know that there's fly. I'm not so familiar with it, but it's doing fine. Like beautiful bullish engulfing last week, and it's holding 37. And this one only came on my radar because a client asked about it. So they must have a fundamental push on this. I can't remember what it is, but I'm sure you can find out. Anyway, Fly is a new IPO, which is why it's harder for me. I don't like stocks that don't have a history of data, like a long history of data. So I can't really see the buyers and sellers of this because they came with an IPO not even a year ago in August, and it was straight down from 73.80 into $16, and now it's trying to basically consolidate and prove that it's worthy. And I would say right now, as long as it stays above 33, which is the monthly from October and January, and last month, which is April, it closed above at 34.60. Very, very productive. You can see this 33.32. It pulled back and it held and it closed beautifully above it. Beautifully. And then it really got excited last week, and it's still in accumulation phase. It looks fine. So Fly is another one within the UFO space for those who are interested.
Join Club to trade with Samantha. Scan this QR code or click the link in the description.